in this edition of the Mike On Podcast.
The annals of history are beautifully colored with stories of people who have let down their lives to others in sacrifice. We have records of philanthropists, human rights activists, and those who stand up for others. Not everyone will be able to speak for themselves. Not everyone will be able to work for themselves. It is at this point the need for those who will go through the rough path of sacrifice comes in. One veritable means of pursuing sacrifice is on the political platform, since politics finds its core ideology on service. But it is not without the bitter and painful sides. The pains of propaganda, betrayal, rejection, losing an election, and sometimes death. We once say these pains are worth the cause. Sometimes young people with successful careers venture into politics with all the risks involved. Thus, these sacrifices, what these pains. We'll delve into the stories of some Nigerians who are these discuss worthy as they bring perspectives to whether or not the pains of sacrifice are worth the quest for service. Join Seun Okinbaloye as he hosts fantastic guests on the Mike On Podcast today.
The 60% of Us series.
Hello and welcome to Mike On Podcast. I'm Seun Okinbaloye. The Mike On Podcast is living up to its name. The mic is always on, and you, the audience, can always have the mic to speak. The show is complementing efforts of my every weekday and Sunday show on Channels Television, making public opinion count and giving everyone a platform to be heard, making public discourse truly public. Globally, playing in the political space or seeking elective offices is not for the faint-hearted. Nigeria has its dynamics and peculiarities, so the journey may even be more bumpy, laden with uncertainties. The call for professionals and technocrats to get involved in active politics is always premised on the fact that political participation is one of the major ways to make real and substantial change. Yes, what does it take to get truly involved? You see the glory, but you do not know the story. More people are fixated on the gains of politics, but the pains, the second side of the coin, rarely get a mention, and people rarely even make reference to that side. So I ask the question tonight, is it really worth it? The sacrifice of service and the pains of Nigerian politics. Today, on the podcast, I'm hosting those who have been there, done that, and they really know their onions in all of what we're going to be talking about. They have some very inspiring stories, not for only the young people, for everyone listening, because politics govern our lives. Those who are in politics are the ones who are in governance, and governance are those who determine, and those who are in government are those who determine what we feed, the cost of the product in the market, our livelihood generally. So it's important for us to get involved in this conversation, everyone. And I indulge you to stay on course and let's be part of the conversation, because the mic is on. Their stories are inspiring and filled with lessons for aspiring politicians. Let's begin the conversation tonight with a very fulfilled, very accomplished Nigerian artist who lived some part of his life outside of Nigeria, came into the Nigerian music scene, took it by storm. He had a management company, is being able to manage artists and being able to do well for himself. And you will perhaps say he's one of the managers of some of Nigeria's biggest artists. So you will rightly say that he's perhaps a very fulfilled entertainer and entertainment management entrepreneur. He's ventured into several other careers, also making money for himself, and he's also happily married. So he ventured into politics. A lot of people were surprised and were asking the question, why would he? The question is, why do good people want to get their hands dirty? Why not, if not? tonight, let's begin the conversation with Mr. Bankole Wellington, popularly called Banky W. Thank you so much, Mr. Banky W, for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Sheon. It's a pleasure to be here. Olu Bankole, you have to add the Olu for me, please.
Which
Olu
is very
Bankole.
important. I know.
It's important to me.
Absolutely.
It's important to me.
Just like the Oluwaseun is also very important in my name, but for some reasons.
There we go.
Absolutely.
So thank you,
I agree.
Oluwaseun, for the show.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's begin the conversation. And I told a lot of people today, that they need to listen in and watch the podcast because it's going to be as inspiring as it's going to be very interesting, because I know a part of your story. And when you tell Nigerians tonight and the world generally why you ventured into politics, maybe some people might get inspired. So let's begin the conversation. It was a comfort zone that you were willing to leave and venture into the unknown, which is politics. That foray has its own dirty and its dirt and its own intrigues. But why would you want to leave the comfort zone and go into perhaps what could cause you a stain on your seemingly white garment?
Right. Well, for me, the answer is very simple, and I think I can go back to the first time I had the conversation with my wife, Adesoa, about the burden that I felt to get into politics in the first place. And she said pretty much the same thing that you're saying now, or she asked the same question that you're asking me now, which is, why leave what is a good life, everything that we have going for us, and go into something that is dirty and is dangerous? But the truth of the matter is, politics will always be dirty and dangerous if all the good people avoid it. If everybody who is a right-thinking, like-minded Nigerian continues to sit out of the process, then invariably we will leave it sometimes to the worst of us to get into this political system. And then we cannot now turn around and complain that things are bad or we're unhappy with government if we are unwilling to be a part of it ourselves. I think we all have a role to play. Now, not all of us will have the calling or be willing to kind of stick our necks out and run for office, but I think all of us do have a role to play. So for those of us who are willing to do that, those of us who are not, have to find people that are and partner with them and collaborate with them to put Nigeria on the path towards growth and development. And that was what it was for me. I mean, sitting back at that point, this was a few years ago now, 2018, I was looking at the political system and I was a bit frustrated with the options that we had. And this is kind of parking the presidential conversation for a moment, but looking down the line at our senators and our House of Representatives members and our State House of Assembly members and our local government chairmen. And I would go around speaking to young people and saying, hey guys, all of these positions are important in the kind of society that we're going to live in. But unfortunately for us, we always ignore them. We don't pay attention to who's running for office. We might pay attention to the president or the governor. I'm talking about young people now. But we would ignore all of these things. And so it was from that burden of frustration with the status quo, or frustration with the way things were, to say, you know what? It was almost like me that God has blessed, right? With success. I've made a little bit of money. I've had some success in music, in film, in media and marketing, in the restaurant business, in my agency space, in the things that God has placed in my hands to do. And I also have a voice, I have an audience, I have a following, I have a platform. So if I can't be the one to kind of lead by example and stick my neck out and say, this is something that we need to pay attention to and get involved in, then who am I waiting for to come along to do these things? And that's really what pushed me to say, you know what, let this change that I'm seeking, let it start with me. Sometimes we keep looking around, but really what we need to do is look in the mirror. And that was the moment for me. And thankfully, my wife gave me that support and that love. And, we went into it. And it has been a tough journey. It has been a rough road. It's filled with sacrifices. It's filled it's a very draining experience, but it's also a very inspiring experience. And I'm glad that I've done it. I'm glad that I've been involved thus far. And listen, whether I ever get into political office or not, I will always be one of the people that tries to be the kind of change that he wants to see in Nigeria, one of the people that will always fight for a better Nigeria, that will always speak up for a better Nigeria, one of the people that will always stick his neck out in one way, shape, or form to make the country more what we dream that it can be.
So, I mean, I'm seeing a situation where it does look to me from what you're saying that you will not stop trying. You might still want to run for office.
Well, I think it's a bit soon to commit to that specifically. The decision to run for office is one that you cannot take lightly. It's one that you cannot make, at the spur of the moment. There's so much that goes into it, resources, backing, work, strategy, planning, and then the journey itself takes so much from you, and not just financially, emotionally, physically, your health. You for those who truly run for office, not for those who just kind of wing it, or kind of manipulate their way onto a ticket. But if you're truly running a real campaign, it really takes a lot from you, and your family, pays the price alongside you as well. And so, whether I will run again in 4 years' time, I'm not sure. The honest answer is I can't tell you that definitively here. But what I can say is that if my service to only dependent on whether I got a seat in government or not, then I don't deserve the seat in the first place. So while I cannot answer the question whether I will run again and what position I will run for, we'll get to that in due time. But I can tell you that I will always serve. For me, it's about having a heart for service, a heart for people, a heart and an innovative mind to try and bring solutions and bring answers and help, because we need all the help that we can get as a nation and as a community. So I will always do that. But whether it means running for office in 2027, I think it's too early to say.
Of course, we have since been joined by Senator Sani, who was...
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I used to make fun of him that he's a former activist. It tells me that always once an activist, always an activist. Senator Shehu Sani. Senator Shehu Sani was a federal lawmaker who represented Kaduna State in the Senate, and he's here with us on the podcast tonight. It's good to see you. When we were, myself and my team and I were looking at this, and were mentioning yourself and Banky, we were really very pressed to listen to your stories, because I know there are a lot of stuff in it. Because if Banky, for example, has made his name in entertainment and all of that, and all the businesses, could venture into politics, and is telling us tonight the reasons why he did that. You are you're an acclaimed civil rights activist, but then one of the people that you criticized the most were the politicians. And a lot of people were surprised when they heard that Comrade Shehu Sani, that's what we used to call you those times, is willing to go into politics. The question on the minds of a lot of people is, why?
Thank you, Sharon, and then thank you, my brother and friend, Banky W. Paul, I must congratulate you for this program, and I appreciate this invitation. Well, people go into politics for different reasons. Some get into politics to serve the people. Some get into politics because of the power and the fame associated with it, and as such, they want to have a slice of it. Some go into politics because in their own thought and projection, that is a platform for which they can enrich themselves. So for me, I believe that any man of conscience and conviction who has over the years seen the way his country is being run will reach that very point that We are here today because we are in this state because of the kind of leadership that preside over the affairs of our country. And I can say it unequivocally that 95% of those who are in politics today were not driven by conviction. People, we have a system in this country where those with ideas, those with principles and ideals and ideology, those with a vision, find it very difficult to navigate the stormy waters of politics and reach the platform of power. I had the privilege of being on both sides as an activist who have been in the struggle for democracy, and we have made our own modest contribution to see that democracy was restored in this country in 1999, and also the other experience of being in politics. As an activist, you are being driven by ideals, principles, ideas, universal principles. If you are a civil rights activist, there are tablets, there are tabular form, there are what they call factors that will drive you. You want to fight for justice, for freedom, for rights, and then you want to go against injustice, right violations, and all these kind of things. In the process, you either go into advocacy, or you agitate, or you protest, or you use any instrument that you can advance such ideas. But in politics is a different ball game altogether. You have to associate and live with people that you don't share anything in common with. And also, the moment you get into that terrain, you will be told it's like being inducted into a certain cult, that these are our principles. You want to get into power, you need Godfather, you need money, and you should be able to understand that it's not always that you will have your way, and these are the way things have been done. So in most times, you will find out that good people, gentle people, people with ideas and intellect on how they can change our society, the moment they are faced with this kind of stormy and turbulent waters that is full of crocodiles and sharks, they simply chicken out. And it is those that remain and navigate and fight on that assume the position of leadership. And most times, you find that these are not people that are supposed to preside over affairs of governance. For example, someone comes from abroad. He's been living in UK or US for a very long time, and he's only versed in their own kind of policy. And he comes back here to his country after 20 or 30 years and say he wants to contest. Then they will tell you the rules that completely is different from what is there. There you can win election through the use of social media, reaching out, being generous and whatever. When you get into politics in this country, the first thing is you'll be told that these are the parties that can win elections. So, for you to know. And secondly, these are people who can make it happen for you. And then thirdly, these are the rituals that we do. You need a group of thugs. You need money to buy votes. You need to get the someone from the side of security who's going to help you. You need, this is the way you can win primaries election. This is the way general elections are being done. And as such, there are also people you have to be loyal to. Now, with all these kind of things, you'll find out that you are in a different political. I can remember someone, a lady who said she studies governance and policies, but she doesn't understand Nigerian kind of politics. Before the elections, if I can recall, the European Union, Canadian agency, American groups were all here in Nigeria to train INEC staffs, to train political parties on how things are done. So in one of the invitations they sent to me, I was there. They are simply telling us how things are being done in their country. In all the lectures they gave and the training programs they have no ideas on how elections are being rigged, on how you need talks to attack polling units, on how you can use a pen and change the score sheet, on how you can manipulate beavers, on how you can buy the returning officer or the rec to do so. They have no ideas of how things are being done in this place. And when you are getting into politics, these are the things which they have to tell you. So that's why you will see that in most times, many people who ought to be very much involved in politics, the moment they get into it, they run away. They run away not just because of the corrupt political culture we have here, but they can't stand the heat. If you come out now, you want to contest election. First of all, they will go to your past. And if there is nothing dirty there, they will create it for you. And they will do it repeatedly until people believe that what you say or do is right. And the people continue starting to believe that. For example, there is a man in Niger State who wanted to be a governor of Niger State, which is about 15 years ago. And then the opponents now through a kind of message to the public that the man was not circumcised. He wasn't circumcised. And then that issue now became topical in the minds of people. Now, if you have been prove to people that you are circumcised or you're not circumcised. So for somebody who is a gentleman, who cannot stand the heat, will simply say, "This is not a place which I can see, I can be." So, if we are desirous of changing our society, men of conscience and conviction must come forward. You must be ready to withstand the heat and to know very well that if you stay on the sidelines, somebody will take over as a president, as a governor, as a senator, and as members of State House of Assembly. And then things will never be right. Look at what is happening in State Houses Assemblies today. Most of them, from the Speaker of the State House Assembly to the last person who is there, many of them, people don't even know them outside their own states, outside their own constituencies. Now, you can hardly hear any member of State House of Assembly criticizing a state governor or any State House of Assembly rejecting or disapproving any request from a state government. It's because of the kind of people they push in there. And then you also wonder, you are a citizen of this country. Why can't you be Nigeria's ambassador to Switzerland? Why can't you be Nigerian ambassadors to Brazil? Why not to Argentina? Why not to Thailand? How are people appointed as ambassadors? People are appointed as ambassadors on two grounds, whether it's a career on those who have worked with foreign ministry or appointments. Once allocations are being shared to state governors, they will not bring Banky W to represent his state and then push him to either Switzerland or Germany. The governor will bring somebody who is loyal. Now, loyalty has become the watchword. They don't want a competent person. They don't want ones with the ability and capacity to serve the people. They want a loyalist who is not going to overshine and pass his own benefactor. And that is why either elected positions or positions on appointments are being given to the governor's men or to the president's men. And that is where we find ourselves today. Most of those in the position of authority are not there because they are capable or they are competent. It's because a favor is done to them by somebody. On the last one, I would tell you something. You see the National Assembly, you see the Senate, specifically. Now, everyone is a Senator 109. But how did you come to the Senate will determine your conduct in that Senate. If you are sponsored by somebody, a certain godfather, who uses finance to make sure he bulldozes you to win the primaries and then to general elections, and you're there, so you find it difficult to express your own independent opinion without consulting that godfather on any issue. That's why sometimes you see some legislators are not talking. Some are more vocal. Some are not. Well, it all depends on how you get there. There are senators who became senators because they won election. Now, everyone won election. That is a fact of matter. But some is because the position was zoned to the area. Some is because they couldn't be governors, so they are being sent there to be senators. Some is because they are there to hold the seat so that when the governor finishes his tenure, he comes there and take over the seat. So there are different reasons. That is why you will find out that at every end of tenure, almost 60 to 70% of those who are elected in office never comes back. Because it's either when you are there, you want to be independent-minded, and then from that independent-mindedness, you get into trouble with somebody who felt, why should he be independent? He should be a stooge of someone.
Senator,
so
if I may jump in quickly, if I may jump in and ask you, do you regret ever going into politics? You are one person that has been jailed for your political beliefs, for your activism. You are one that have been seen to have been speaking truth to power. But you left all of that and you have your own story, which we will get into. You foray into politics and how things happened and, you know, your election and your re-election bid and all what have you. But with the benefit of hindsight, do you regret ever going into politics?
Well, I could have said that if I have not joined politics, I will have just died an ignorant man, because it's a different world altogether. And as a human being, you would like to explore and learn. And for me, as an activist, it was not difficult for me to join politics because we have been fighting and we have been in the trenches for the most part of our lives. And that helped me in being able to withstand the rigors and the problems and the crises and the storms associated with politics. But the problems that people like us will have is violating the rules of the game as it is. There are things you are not expected to talk about. There are things you are expected to talk about that is against your conscience. There are things you are supposed to do that is far ahead of reason and morality, but you are expected to do it. So what happens is that when you go to the National Assembly or to the Senate or in politics, you will have a choice. You remain consistent to your ideals and principles, and then in that process, you will get headlong with people who felt that is not what is supposed to be. Or you play the game according to the rules of the corrupt system, and then you keep on being elected, re-elected, and keep on coming back and achieving and doing nothing. So for me, I believe that my presence in politics is something which is worthwhile because it gave me the opportunity to serve people, to make impact in their life.
Your eyes were wide. I mean, if your eyes were wide open, it was wider, and you saw things that you perhaps would never have seen if you hadn't gone into politics. Yes. But let me go back to Banky. Banky, you've said once that your wife warned you about the dirty and the dangerous nature of politics, yet you still went into it. Do you regret that?
No, not at all. I don't regret it at all because, like I said before, if we avoid it, then sometimes it's people who should either be in jail or in exile that we will leave to assume political office. And I think it's unfortunate, leadership is the challenge of Nigeria. It's one of the biggest challenges that we have. And I think those people who have ideas, who have vision, who have competency, who have a bit of character, who have the intellect to enter political office and do things differently, and the genuine desire to serve and to help, those are the kinds of people that we need entering office. And so for me, whether I regret it, absolutely not. I think I've learned more about our people and our problems in this short period of doing politics than the years that I spent outside of it. I think it's something that, even if you are not going to run for office, you have to be involved, you have to be aware, you have to find somebody to partner with or believe in or support. I think we all have a role to play in the kind of nation that we want to see. I think that there are those of us who are in the private sector, but we have to find people that are running for office and partner with them. Otherwise, Nigeria never gets out of the mess that we're in. I truly believe that the way we get out of this mess as a nation is through innovation and reform. Innovation doesn't happen inside of government offices. Innovation happens in the private sector. It happens in fintech. It happens in media. It happens in entertainment. It happens in banking and telecoms. It happens in private companies. If you look at the 7 unicorns that are on the African continent, the majority of them are from Nigeria. That shows you that we innovate as a people, is who we are. But reform can only happen at the table of policy making. It can only happen in government. The problem is we've ignored the chance to institutionalize reform for far too long, and then we're stuck with where we are. And so for me, I think if all I do is open the door for other like-minded people to feel inspired to do the same thing, invariably, eventually, enough like-minded, right-thinking people will get into the system. And that's really what we need. I don't think any one person, how do I put this? There's no messiah in politics. It's a system, right? You have the president, you have governors, you have senators, you have House of Representative members, you have local government chairmen, you have councillors, and then you have the civil service, which is its own animal on its own. Now, all of these people and all of these positions and all of these roles have a part to play. So I think all of these things are important. We have to start paying attention, and we need a critical mass of people entering into public service in these various positions. And once we get that critical mass of people, so for me, it's bigger than me running for House of Reps in Etiosa. I don't know whether I'll run for House of Reps in Etiosa again. I've done it twice now. I don't know if I will run for it a third time. Maybe I'll open the door for somebody else.
You should.
Well, sir, I might run for something else. I might run for Senate. I might run for something. I think we need fresher minds in politics. I think
maybe the governor of Lagos State or for the president. Why not?
I mean, we'll see what the will of God is and what my competency is at that time, because I don't think that, you don't just, people asked me, why run for House of Reps, in 2019 and now. And my response was, you don't graduate university and walk into a Fortune 500 company and apply for the job of CEO. There are certain jobs that you have to earn the right to ask for. And for me, at the stage of life that I'm in, as of right now, and the competency that I have, and the experiences that I have, I know that I deserve, or at least I feel like I deserve the right to ask to represent my community, because that's what I'm doing and that's what I'm equipped for. Now, if I'm going to run for governor or president, there's a little bit more that I need in terms of my experiences and my education. Yes, I have a bachelor's of science in industrial engineering, but there are more things that I would want to get under my belt in life experiences, in education, in success, before I can start to think about those kinds of roles. So we'll see what the future holds. But I think for me, the message remains that we need a critical mass of right-thinking, like-minded people to come into government in appointed positions and in elected positions. And I dare say that elected positions are much more important, because in an appointed position, when you're appointed, you serve at the pleasure of the person that appointed you, like Honorable was just saying, the distinguished senator was just saying. You serve at the pleasure of the person that gave you the job. So when that person changes his mind, or maybe you don't align in ideology, or it's possible that that person can withdraw that appointment from you and put somebody else who is more loyal in that role. When you're elected, however, you serve at the pleasure of the people. And there you get a bit more of an opportunity to stand for what you want. Yes, it's not easy. Yes, there will be a lot of opposition, but at least you serve at the pleasure of the people for the time that you are there. That's what the democracy provides. So I think we need more people going into elected positions and appointed positions as well. That critical mass of right-thinking, like-minded people is so crucial to set this country on the path towards growth and development. And that's what it's about for me. So yes, I ran for office, but I'm hoping that we're opening the door wide enough and inspiring enough minds that other people will come in and do the same thing. And together we can help Nigeria change for the better.
And I like yourself and Senator Sani to weigh in on this. I want to know briefly your views on this. Do you sometimes get so disappointed, or how do you feel when you see the quality of people leading this country? What kind of feeling do you have?
Senator, I'll defer to you, sir. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Well, you see, it is the system that produces the leadership. If you have a system that will be fair and just and merit-based, certainly you will have the best that will emerge. But when you have a system that has been highly corrupted, you need money to win the primaries, not just a lot of money. You need a godfather to win the primaries. You need a lot of money to be in the major party that can win elections. Now, all these things contribute in helping the process of bringing the kind of leaders that we have. The most painful aspect of it is when you have bad leaders, incompetent leaders in the position of authority, they draw the society and the country backwards. They retard the development of the country. They spread poverty, mischief, and make it impossible for our country to move forward. And the worst part of it is that some things that should be so easy, so simple, so affordable will be made so difficult. And how do you imagine a country like ours? Basic things as electricity is so difficult to provide for our people. Not that we don't have the money to do that, but because the people who have always been in charge of issue of power simply go there to help themselves. This is a country that has spent over $30 billion since 1999 on electricity. And we are yet to even add 1,000 megawatts of electricity since 1998. Then you ask yourself, look at what the recent revelation that has just come in. 350 billion naira was swindled by officials, allegedly swindled by officials of the federal government working on issues of power. And then now you look at the achievement that has been recorded in the private sector. When you go out of Nigeria today, an average person in Ghana, in Egypt, and Ethiopia or anywhere, he either knows Nigeria's footballers, he knows our own entertainers, he knows our own pastors, our own imams, but many of them cannot even say this is the president of our country. And if you go to those countries, you will see either EcoBank or Zenith or UBA or sort of bank. So you can see how individuals who have been weighed down by the system go to other countries and see. Banky W is in politics. He has contested twice. But we know that there is a musician who became president in Senegal A footballer became president in Liberia. Ronald Reagan was a movie star. He's a president. Zelensky became president, being a stand-up comedian, and so many things like this. Because they look at you, they look at what you can offer, what you can deliver, and how you can advance society, and then you're elected into office. But the way the system goes here is such a way that it corrupts our people not to look at leadership as part and parcel of their lives.
But Senator, Senator, you know, I mean, and this is what the point I'm making, that, I mean, yes. I don't think that if I'm all dressed for church on a Sunday morning, and I know that out there it is murky, and there's clay, there is all, I mean, with my white clothing, I wouldn't want to get into the murky water. You know that the politics of Nigeria could be very murky and dirty, yet you wanted to go into it yourself and Banky W. There must be something beyond the ordinary, isn't it?
What I'm telling you is that if you want to clean up any area, it's like a construction going on. There must be dirt, there must be dust, there must be so many things that is simply not normal. The system has made it such a way that if you want to get to the driver's seat, you have to pass through these tribulations and trials for you to get hold on to things that you have to change. Whether it's elective politics or whether it's revolution, you simply have to pass through the rough and turbulent areas. I have no problem with the kind of problems we have, because I've come to realize that if you want to change this country, you simply have to be involved, not simply sit by the sideline and criticize. The mistake we did in 1999, after we fought for democracy, when many of us went to jail, and many came back from exile, Gani Fawahimi, Bekuran Sankuti, and several of our own comrades who fought at that time, we were supposed to engage Abdul Salam Abubakar, set up a political party, and take over political power. But because at that very period, many of us come out of prison after many, like me, I spent 4 years in prison. I came out. We couldn't even find where our shoes and our suits are. So we came out, and then we came out with that fire that let us continue to fight. When the politicians were assembling themselves, they're organizing themselves to take over power, we are still setting up
a pro-democracy
group.
Yeah.
Yes, fighting. So by the time we realized, and I can remember at that very time, Chief Gani Fawahimi was saying that we had a meeting and said we should continue to fight. I remember at that time Aswaju asked him that if we continue to fight, who's going to take over power? Then he said, these people are not serious. He said, no, that he is going to go and contest election. Many of us at that time, because our head was so hot, we felt that those who want to go and contest election at that time are simply betraying the struggle.
And perhaps compromise.
4 years after, we came to realize they have taken over all the political spaces and are in power, and democracy has come to stay. So our struggle, our protest now is no more fashionable, because people have transformed into politicians and have taken over power. And people who never paid the price for politics, they never fought the military, they never went to jail or were pushed into exile, or were simply people who simply associated themselves with the dictatorship and the tyranny at that very time, take the opportunity and take over political power. So it took us many years. Then Gani now tried to contest in 2003 under a National Conscious Party, and he got about 150,000 votes, and many Falana contested the governorship, but it was too late for many of us at that time, because politicians have taken over all the places and have become so extremely rich, and we were left behind. It took me about 3 times to contest. I lost. I contested first, second. On the third, I won. So that is why when I had Banky W said he contests why he should not. You have to remain there. Sometimes the victory is just at the corner. So by the time you give up, each time you contest election, you are making an impression in the hearts of people and gaining more followers until you win. I believe that is how it's supposed to be. Good people should get involved in politics, but it's not going to be easy. But we have to be there in order to change this country. We can't stay on the sideline. If you contest and lose today, tomorrow you can win, and those who contested will also lose. I have seen a situation where a state governor will serve for 8 years and he wants to be senator and lose election. I've seen a situation where people will want to be members of House of Reps and they will lose that and then win the senatorial seat. There are sometimes people who wanted to be governors, who want to be senators, they will lose election and then become governors. So it's at each time you contest election, you are making an impression and you're expanding your scope and you are getting into the conscience of people. Whoever wins, if not you, he is the one that is on trial and you will be on the reserve. So do not give up. You have to continue until you represent your people at Etiosa. And I believe that should also be an inspiration for anybody. The moment you pull out, the enemies simply have succeeded, and your people don't give up. But it is the way the politics is. You may not get House of Reps, but you can be a senator tomorrow and a governor. This is what I believe in.
I mean, Banky, so it's your turn to
encouragement, sir.
It's your turn to speak on this matter. Do you sometimes feel maybe you're watching an international television and you see politicians or people in power in those countries and you compare to Nigeria? Do you feel disappointed? Or how do you feel?
So for me, I think that until we start to pay attention to the process that produces political office holders, we will always be frustrated by the results of that process and by the candidates that we're stuck with. I think we have to get involved from the bottom. So delegates select so that citizens can elect. Now, when I'm out speaking to young people, when I'm in conferences and I'm speaking to progressive, enlightened people, I always do a survey and I say, how many people here are card-carrying members of a political party? Until date, I don't think I've ever been in a conference with progressive young people, educated, enlightened people, where I see maybe 10 to 20%, more than 10 to 20% of the room of people who are actually members of a political party. And I think the problem starts from there. So you cannot complain about the candidates or the eventual winners of the election if we all refuse to play a part in the process. Again, I say delegates select so that citizens can elect. So you have to join a political party. I think we would be remiss to think that everybody in a political party is bad or good. I think in most cases, in many cases, they're more, corrupt-minded people. But there are lights in these rooms full of darkness. And I think that we have to understand that and be willing to go into that and get our hands in the soil and play a part in the process, be a member of the party, understand what is happening there, let your voice be heard at the ward level in your constituency and build from the bottom. While I was campaigning, I always used to say that the problems in Nigeria are from the top down, but the solutions are from the bottom up. So until we play a part in the process that produces candidates, we will always be frustrated by the caliber of candidates that we have. And so for me, the solution is, it goes back to saying, can we get that critical mass of people interested enough to play a part in the process? Can we join political parties? Can we get a seat at the table to determine what kind of candidate do we want to represent? And maybe we don't have enough yet to sway the presidency. But in many cases, when you're talking about Senate or House of Reps or, even at the State House of Assembly, you're talking about somewhere between 10,000 and, in many cases, less than 100,000 people to win any seat. In Etiosa, the last two elections in 2019 and in 2023, in 2019, it was about 22,000 and change. In 2023, it was 24,500 or thereabout votes that it took. And this is Etiosa. many would say that, this is the most educated constituency in the country. And it only took 20-something thousand votes to win the seat. So again, that critical mass actually has the power to sway these seats as long as we pay attention, as long as we get involved. So let's get off this soapbox and this entitled mentality that we have, where we are pointing fingers at the people in office and pointing fingers at the people in power. Those people did the work, which, in some cases, corrupt work, fine, but they did the work. The sweat equity is there. They built structures from the ground up. They've been a part of the process for years. And that's why they end up, at the table of power. So those of us that are sitting from outside go through the same process if we want to change things.
Banky, you will advise people to join a political party. That's one thing that
absolutely
is important for everyone to be a political party member.
Absolutely. I think that if you wait until the elections to start trying to pay attention and get involved, you're already too late. Again, I said this before, delegates select so that citizens can elect. And that delegates selection process, that entire process of going through the primaries. I mean, I had to contest my primaries multiple times because we won and they tried to take it from us. We had to go through an entire appeals process to go back and fight to hold on to our ticket. And we went through all of that. But it is possible, and we did do it, and we ended up with the ticket. So that's the kind of work that, nobody's going to, roll out the red carpet for us because we say we want to change Nigeria, we want Nigeria to be better, and we have ideas, and we have vision, and we have values. That's great, but nobody's going to hand it over to us. And we need to back away from this entitlement mindset that we have, and this, kind of standing on our soapbox mentality to point fingers and say, oh, we know how to. No, we need to get down and do the work. This thing is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Do you, let me get your, do you, I know you're a Christian. Do you get a spiritual nod before you make a political move?
Absolutely. I think, I cannot separate my spirituality from who I am as a person. My faith in God is the foundation that I've built my life upon. And it's gotten me through the hardest times of my life, through life's biggest challenges, whether you talk about health or finances or purpose or family or everything that I have today, I owe to the grace of God. Now, I don't make a move without, trying to hear from God and getting that sense that God is leading me and he's ordering my steps. Now, the thing about faith, though, is faith is taking steps even when you don't know where the road is going to lead to. It's the willingness to step out. It's the willingness to make a move. Belief is internal, but faith has to be expressed. So you express faith through the words of your mouth, through the works of your hands, and through the steps that you take. And so my life is nothing if not just being a man of faith and having the courage and the willingness to step out, even though I don't know what the eventual results will be, but having that assurance that God is with me, God has got my back, God is ordering my footsteps, and God has a very specific plan and purpose for my life. And eventually, everything will work together for my good. And whatever that end result is, whether it's in government, in helping rebuild the nation, whether it's in providing solutions to the country, to my community, whether it's in service, whether it's going about doing good, that's what this journey is about for me. And I believe very strongly in my heart that I am on the right path to where God wants me to be and being the kind of man that God has created me to be. The end results of that are up to God, and he orders our steps and makes it all work out. But our job is to follow. Our job is the journey.
I've personally faced some troubled times as an individual. So when I see people talk about their tough period of life, I really, even when they say it in the most simple manner, I can read meanings and make sense of what he's saying. What would you say is perhaps your most troubled time as a Christian, as an individual, as a father, as a husband, as a person generally in the last few years? What would you say was perhaps your most challenging period of your life?
That's a tough question to answer. And I've said this, in times past, that I think at some point I need to slow down and write a book about the experiences that I've had in life and the lessons I've learned. But, when you ask me something like that, there are quite a few situations that immediately jump to mind. I've battled, to the glory of God, I've battled skin cancer 3 times. And thankfully, I'm in the clear, and it's no longer a challenge that I have to deal with. The challenge of finding purpose and chasing your dreams, the challenge that my wife and I had when we were trying to have a baby. We spent a few years, trying everything under the sun possible to have a child, which we've shared that testimony online. And in that journey, we did IVF 3 times and it didn't work. In fact, one of the times we were pregnant with twins, and we lost the twins, which anybody who has been through that kind of experience, and we don't talk about these things enough, but anybody who has been through that kind of experience will verify that it's one of the hardest things for a couple to go through. The challenge of purpose, of just living life purpose, the elections that we've lost, what it takes from you financially, physically, all of that. But, I believe very strongly that my faith in God does not help. Your faith in God does not always help you avoid challenges or rescue you from challenges, but it helps you deal. It helps you kind of withstand it. It helps you survive it. It helps you go through the tough times in life and come out on the other side. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. God sometimes, I don't believe that God authors bad things, or God brings pain or darkness into our lives, but I think that He does permit it, and He permits it as a trial of your faith, as a test of your faith, to build you up to be stronger or wiser or better or more equipped for where He's taking you to. I learned something a long time ago, that great destinies require great character. But character cannot be prayed into you. Character can only be built. And it's built through surviving storms. It's built through rough times. It's built through going through difficult situations, but finding the strength within, because of that faith in God, to stand and to come out on the other side. And that character eventually will be big enough for the destiny that God has prepared you for. So, I can sit here and reel off story after story, but what I can tell you is tough times have come, but I'm still standing to the glory of God, because of my faith in God, because of my belief in God and my belief in myself and who He has created me to be. And I know that my tomorrow will be better than my past. So we keep moving forward by His grace.
Congratulations, Banky W, because if you have gone through some of these life challenges that you have mentioned tonight, there is a need for a big congratulations for what God has helped you through and your family. And perhaps, let me quickly go to Senator Shehu Sani. And sometimes when I want to make myself happy, in the most serious moment, sometimes you get the most interesting satirical tweets from Senator Shehu Sani. And sometimes when I just go through his timeline, I can't but just keep laughing, because it does, to me, bring out humor in a lot of the serious situation, perhaps, that are even more intriguing. And I and I imagine, Senator, that maybe it's your experience in politics that have led you to churn out some of these very satiric tweets. You are one person who you had only 2 votes during the governorship primary, and you reacted to it in a very intriguing way. Was that a painful experience for you? And those political experiences responsible for those satirical tweets that you always churn out?
Well, thank you, Sharon. Well, you see, I was carefully listening to the experiences of my brother Banky. It's quite inspiring. Well, in my own case, first of all, I believe that whatever you see in life is a phase. Even this, our breathing, there'll be a time it will cease to exist. And even those who knows also cease to exist. So good times and bad times are all phases in life. So since the advent of social media, I can see how people's lives have changed, some for the better and some for worse. And if you are closed in your room with a handset and you go through what has been said on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you will feel that there is so much fire outside. And by the time you open your window and look to the street, you see people going about their normal businesses. So sometimes what I do is to say, okay, rather than people developing high blood pressure on political issues, on social issues, on issues that some people think is so serious that it cannot be watered down. Now, let me think of how we can at least pour some sort of water on it. And then, despite that, there are serious issues we need to attend to in our country. My own is to see how at least I can make people to come back to themselves and now say that, okay, because you can't address everything when you are angry, when you are so annoyed, and when you want to fight every time like this. You can't even understand the issues. So that is why I do those kind of intervention. For example, whenever there is an event, I look at it from a different perspective, and I see what can I make out of these things here, so that at least people can at least laugh about it. And when, for example, the incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu, someone was saying, he's supposed to be kept there forever, things and that he wants to divide this country or whatever. And he asked me of my view. And I said, you see, I come from a history of struggle, and I've been in prison. And in my own experience in prison, I have learned a number of things. First of all is that there's nothing you cannot do without. There are people who live a life that they can't do without cigarettes, but when they're in prison, you find them trying to adjust a life without cigarette. People who sleep on mansion, you find themselves adjusting to sleep on a six-wire bed. I was in prison with former President Olusegun Obasanjo and host of others. So I have learned to adjust myself to every situation I find myself. And then I believe that as a country too, one thing we need for now is that let us understand the problems we have as a people, and then also attach the solutions to the problem. But because we are so angry, because we fight, we insult each other, we do all these kind of things here. So people in the position of power get almost everything they want, and for that matter. So to me, my intervention on social media, as far as the satires that I create, is simply to light up the space and bring people back to themselves and say, okay, now let me not address this issue by anger. Let me look at it from a different point of view and see how that can be addressed. Because in the process of fighting, of insulting each other, of doing so many things, we will not get what we need to get. Recently, Peter Obi was quoted as saying that he must be president. And if you look at it in another medium, he said that he will be president. Then some people are insulting him for doing this, for saying that. But if you look at it, what is the difference between I must be president, I will be president, with also the one that said it's my turn to be president? It's the same thing. So we lose the substance of some of these messages because of our emotions, our temper on so many things. Senator, so my own is simply how people can address matters without getting too much much angry and annoyed.
I wanted to. Yes. I'd like to get a few people on the stream to ask one or two questions, their experiences and what they're learning, the inspiration they're getting from both of you tonight. But I have about two quick questions, and I'd like you to help me tackle them. I mean, I saw one of your tweets, one of the latest one in fact, you did it some hours ago. You said the first step towards servicing, and this was on Twitter, you said the first step towards servicing our billions of dollars of local and foreign debt is a full investigation of the cost of the projects they were purportedly used for. The incoming government must probe all the MDAs under this regime. That's one of the things that you tweeted, and a lot of people will be wondering what exactly you mean. And, there's this controversy about the Buhari government's latest approval in just less than 30 days to go, and approvals are being made every day. And in fact, a lot of Nigerians got angry when there was, is it an 800 million naira, 800 million US dollars that was approved by the National Assembly. You've been in the National Assembly. How difficult was it for them to, people who said they should have turned it down. What is your view on that? I mean, a few days to the end of this government, and yet we're seeing this number of monies, this amount of money being approved.
Well, it all starts with the kind of characters we have at the National Assembly. We have a National Assembly that has already earned its name as a rubber stamp. Naturally, the executive will bring requests, but it is the duty of the parliament and here the legislature to look at those requests and how valuable, useful, and relevant it is. In this country, in the last 8 years, we have been borrowing for everything. We borrow for runway, we borrow for bridges, borrow for roads, borrow for everything. And we are now heading to about 77 trillion naira debt. And as the projections of the IMF and World Bank is that by the end of this year, we'll be using 96% of our revenue to service debt, which means there is virtually nothing that will remain for development and for payment of salary. And I believe the governor of Edo State has made it very clear that it's either the government removes subsidy or you simply have to print money, which shows the problems we are facing. And each time you talk to them about this debt, they will say, look at the second Niger bridge. But if you borrow so much money and construct either a road or a bridge, and you want me to thank you, so what am I going to thank you for? Is it for borrowing or for the bridge or for borrowing and constructing a bridge? Which of the ones I'm going to do? As a government, you have a responsibility. And as one that is led, I have also a duty to ask you questions. You need to be asked. If you tell them that they are living 77 trillion debt, they say, okay, look at the projects that we have done. Now, the next administration, if it doesn't want to sink, it has to go deep into investigating this claim on our national debt. And how did you start about it? Now, if you give out contract for roads, you give out contract for bridges, you give out contracts for airways and whatever, we need to know what are the actual value of those things you have delivered, because this is not free money. You borrowed money from China, from IMF, from World Bank, from Saudi Islamic Development Bank to do these jobs. We have to tally the job you did with the cost of the project. If you have inflated those projects, you simply have to refund this money because it's money we borrow and we have to pay. So the next administration must probe this administration in order to have enough resources that we will be able to address the challenge. I can remember Umar Diko, the Shagari's Minister of Transport, there was a time he told me, when Obasanjo handed over power to them, and in the list of those things which he said that he left behind, after they have been sworn into office, they found out that there is a disparity between what the outgoing military says and what is really on the ground. So he told Shagari that, what should we do? Should we tell the public that this is the actual thing we found on the ground? Or should we? What else should we do? Then Shagari told him that, how can you, for a military that has decided to hand over power to us, and no bloodshed, election was conducted and we won, and do you want to now embarrass them, disgrace them, and expose them, or whatever? Then he said, okay, let's continue like that. Then they moved on. 2 years after, the government has to impose austerity measures because the reality of the economy now started biting on the whole country. So whoever is going to take power today, after May 29, he has to probe this administration on all the contracts, the loans, the spendings that have been done here and there. You have to do it. How can you tell me that a dam project that's supposed to generate electricity, some people sat down and themselves of about 340 billion naira? How will that work? So to me, I believe it's important. Since these monies were borrowed, were loans bank, we have to go through investigating how those monies were used for developmental projects. It's very important. So that is why I made that tweet.
All right. Another quick one that I would like you to mention. It does look like you fell out. And I'd like you to quickly also touch on this. It does look like you fell out with the governor of Kaduna State. A lot of people felt like you had a very close relationship with Governor El-Rufai. But in part of your tweet, it does look like there is some kind of animosity, and perhaps those who say, oh, it's because he didn't guarantee to give you a ticket back, and a lot of things which happened and all of that. But the governor will be exiting office in a few days. Perhaps maybe it's a good time for you to say exactly if you have any grudge, because you said, my response to him was that they should be patient, and during the remaining days of this administration, the leaders are bankrupt of new ideas. They came, they saw, they failed, and they are going. And those who are supporters of Governor El-Rufai will say, you are only angry because he didn't guarantee you a ticket to return to the National Assembly. What exactly is your grudge or grievance with Governor El-Rufai?
Well, first of all, I have never been a close friend of Governor El-Rufai. We happened to meet at the APC. He was contesting for the governor and I contested for the Senate. And he has never contested an election apart from the one in 2015, which I also contested. And at that time, he cannot stop me because he was also not the state governor. And it's not unusual when you have executive power. You can kill, you can give life, you can make some people senators, you can remove some people on the system. So it didn't begin with him. So where we will be at the same level will be after May 29 when he's out of office and he has no immunity, and Sani also has no immunity, and all of us, hopefully, though I will be in Kaduna, but he said he's not going to stay in Kaduna, and I know that I can move to the markets, to the street, I can stay anywhere and move freely with anybody because I offend no one, so as far as I'm concerned. So that is it in that aspect. Well, I have been in the forefront of the struggle right before anybody has his name. We have been in the battlefront as an activist, and I believe that if I ask any one of you, when did you start hearing about him? It should be something in 99 when he was appointed, even when he was made a minister. So to me, any person who knows me will not start speaking the truth simply because I've not been given. We have spoke the truth against Babangida and against Abacha, and I have been to jail in many times. And even when I was in the Senate, I have never shied to speak my mind and speak truth to power. So it's not about whether I have been in office or not. It is about my conscience and conviction. And if I wanted to be there, I would have do everything they want me to do. So I am not a person who shy away from a fight or from a struggle. I express my own opinion. And if you have been in office and you are out of it, you have to know that you are going to adjust to a new life. For people like them, they should know that all they have done while in office in terms of persecuting people and doing so many things, that will be the time that they are going to live a life without all those things that shielded them. So in that aspect, that's all I can say. Whoever will say that I only speak the truth when I'm in office, out of office, that doesn't know my history. And it's so easy for you to Google to know where somebody comes from. So that's what I can say on this. And thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. It's good that you're able to, because I mean, sometimes when you don't speak to an issue, it opens up for speculation. Let me then I'll ask a question to Banky W, and then I'll allow the audience to be able to ask one or two questions, and then we'll be able to respond to it and call it a day. Banky, with what you have seen, Labour Party defeated you in Etiosa, and those who believe that that kind of wave that happened there maybe would have cost you a rethink. Do you think perhaps, just maybe, you could have used the Labour Party platform instead? Because there are those who, in fact, voted and said they didn't even know the Labour Party guy, and that they probably would have voted for you. What comes to your mind when you think about this, that maybe that Labour Party guy could have been you? Because a lot of people thought that it was actually Peter Obi and the Obedient movement that caused that kind of situation. In your case, they thought that maybe they could have voted for you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's clear that we definitely lost to the tsunami and the wave of Peter Obi's movement. I think, but people who ask me that question are not quite aware of the rules. So first of all, the Electoral Act is very clear that if you've contested a primary somewhere, you cannot then leave that and then port to another party in the same electoral cycle. That's illegal. That's one. Two, people also seem to forget that Peter Obi is actually originally a PDP guy. He was in the PDP until, dare I say, the very last minute. And I think when he had done his own calculations and realized that maybe he wasn't going to succeed in the PDP presidential primaries, he then decided to go elsewhere. But he was one of the minds that I was looking forward to working with when I came into the PDP. In fact, GRV, Baribo Rodsvivo, a friend and brother who ended up as the Labour Party governorship candidate for Lagos State, was one of the people who recruited me to come and join the PDP. He was one of the like minds that, literally, we sat down, he invited me out. We had lunch together on at least one or two occasions where he tried to recruit me to come and join like minds like him and others in the PDP and say, hey, let's fight this thing together from inside. So it's unfortunate, but politics is what it is. The way things played out, me going into the PDP these were some of the people alongside other people who were there, alongside other people and other leaders who are in the PDP who I do have respect for. But these were part of the people that I was going into the PDP with every intention of working with in some capacity or the other. Now, when Peter Obi left at the last minute, the National Assembly primaries had already been concluded. And then, he went to Labour Party at the last minute. And then a lot of people just kind of followed that wave and, manipulated their way onto tickets. And there are a lot of question marks regarding the candidacy, especially particularly of people in the National Assembly who jumped to join the wave and just manipulated their way onto tickets to ride the Peter Obi wave in Labour Party. There's a lot of question marks that I think the courts will have to decide, and we'll see. You see what happens in that regard. But I think one, it was not an option for me because I had already contested in the PDP. Two, I do think that there is something worth fighting for from within the PDP. I think that at its core, this is a truly national party. It's a party that exists all over the country. It's a party whose true ideology is democracy. And democracy can be good or bad, right? Because it's the majority that wins. So if the majority of the people that are in the party are corrupt and are looking for corrupt outcomes, then they will succeed. But the more that we have good people setting up shop in there and trying to reform things from within, the more that we have a chance to redirect the affairs of a truly national party in the long term. And so for me, and then obviously there are a few other people, leaders and members of the party, not just in my local constituency, but around the country, who I truly identify with and I believe in, and we're working together. And so, it had its appeal to me as a candidate. Things are what they are. The elections have happened, and we'll see what happens in the tribunal process. But I also think that it's important to say this. I think we have to understand that leadership is also about collaboration. And if you really look at it, at least on the presidential level, Peter Obi, His Excellency Peter Obi, His Excellency Atiku, and even His Excellency Kwankwaso, the three of them were actually PDP people. And it's unfortunate, but the opposition was divided. And so it kind of played into the hands of the APC on the presidential level, because when you have an opposition that's divided and you just look at the numbers, if somehow the PDP had found a way to stick together, the election would have been over by 12 noon. And I know people there have been instances of people saying that they were rigging in different places, but rigging only works when the margins are small enough where you can skew the numbers. But if the opposition was united, then the PDP would have stood a much better chance of securing the win at the national level. But it is what it is. Things have played out the way that they are. What I'm interested to see is if everybody who participated this time around understands that 2023 elections were not our finish line, they were a starting point. So what do we do from here? How do we collaborate going forward? Labour Party and PDP, is there even any thought, and I guess this is a question more for the national leaders, but should they be thinking of some level of collaboration? How can the PDP and the Labour Party and maybe, the ADC or one or two other parties come together? Because that's what it takes sometimes to take power. You have to be able to say, some of us are going to have to sacrifice our own ambition, for the other person to go or for the greater good. The whole reason, and I think you have to tip your hat to APC, the whole reason the APC is successful is because of collaboration. It's Buhari and Tinubu and the likes of them, they decided to come together, they merged, they formed one party from CPC and Action Congress, and they put themselves together and they joined forces and they were able to take power. And I think going forward, that has to be a question that the leaders at the national level are willing to address and to look at. I mean, we can all continue to fight in our silos, or we can say, is there a world in which there's a bit of sacrificing? That's what leadership takes. It takes self-sacrifice. It also takes collaboration. It takes people being willing to come together. I mean, if you remember in 2019, we had third force candidates, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, Feladuro Toye, Auntie Obi, Showore, all people who I know in various capacities, I know quite well, and I like. But they tried to get them in a room and say, hey, let's agree and collaborate and come out with a consensus candidate, and they couldn't do that. And these were all people with relatively small party structures. So I think that's the uncomfortable question that we have to be willing to face and to answer. In our struggle for a new Nigeria, are we going to be willing to collaborate? Are we going to be willing to sacrifice our own selfish ambition sometimes for the greater good of the country? So for me, that's what it's about. I mean, we'll see what happens when all the tribunal stuff processes are over now. But I've already made peace with the election, and whatever the eventual results are, I've made peace with what is happening, and I'm at peace knowing that the plan and the purpose for my life belongs to God, and at the end of the day, everything will work together for my good because I'm in His purpose. So whatever that means for me, whether politically or in business or in life or in family or in ministry or anything else that He puts in my hands to do, I know I'll be okay. So I'm content.
Fantastic, Banky. Let's just spend the next few minutes, albeit very few, for us to just get some other people's views. Senator Sani had to run because they needed to attend to something. But let's take a few comments and questions from people, perhaps those who have been inspired by the stories of the two gentlemen who have spoken on this podcast today. And I have quite a few people who have their hands already raised on the Twitter Spaces. I have Ade BC, and I have Mr. Prolific Davis Theon, and also Kainde Adefulu. I don't know which of them has the mic on because we're ready to listen to you. Just your intervention quickly. Adebisi, you're on.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I would have loved if, I don't know, maybe because I'm not watching, I'm listening on Twitter. I don't know, maybe the senator is still there. He was talking about the Nnamdi Kanu situation. I wanted him to finish on that thought. It seems to have caught, he didn't make his complete side. I don't know if you can help us get that information. Then, how will he advise the coming government to handle the IPOB matter? Very, very key to be. Then for Banky W, I believe he's there because he just finished speaking. Yeah. Thank you for all the great music and all of that. So please, I want to know, is it what next? Yes, I like the way he rounded up that whatsoever comes out of he will accept and work with God's plans for his life. But what will he be doing after the whole petition process and all of that? Are you going back to music? Are you trying to discover talent? Because I know the whole world agreed that you brought out Wizkid. What is your plan? Getting back, trying to discover more talented youths out there needing help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I love that. Let's bank it up. Would you? I mean, I know Senator Sani left because he had to attend to a few things. So let me allow Banky W to respond to that.
Okay. My plans post this election and tribunal process, a few things. So my hands are pretty full. One, we have the media and marketing agency. So we have quite a few clients. My partners are happy to have me in the office these days. So I'll continue my work in the media and marketing space. I'm still in the restaurant space with Suya Bistro, so that continues. In the agency space in terms of running a booking agency and managing brands, corporate brands, and to a lesser degree managing some talents or providing booking agency services for some talents. That will continue. I stopped the record label part of my operation way back in 2017. So I've seized that part of my business operation a few years ago. It is not something that is on the front burner for me right now. I don't see myself going back into a record label business, but I'm always working with talent. In fact, as an agency, we work with most talents in the music, movie, and personality spaces. We pair them with corporate brands. We're very, very our fingerprints are fully in the entire influencer marketing space in the country. So we do a lot of work with talents, with and also with brands, managing brands. They're not paying, the corporate brands that we work for are not paying an advertising fee to Sheun, to Olua Sheun. So I won't mention who they are. But as an agency, thank God, we're doing pretty well. So I'll continue in the work that we're doing. I'm also getting a bit further into real estate and a few other business interests like that. Then aside from that, I'm also serving in ministry. I serve in a teaching and assistant pastoral capacity at the Waterbrook Church under the House of Freedom, under Pastor Tony Rapu. So I continue to do that. I continue to serve in the kingdom of God. I continue to serve in community. We're still doing a lot of community service. In fact, just last month, we did a clothing drive and a medical drive in Etiosa, where we were able to serve hundreds of our people. We gave out, I think, over 2,500 items of clothing to our community. We were able to do free medical services for hundreds of people. And then there are a few more things in terms of community service that we have lined up. We're trying to pull up a technology hub for our young people, where we've got a few community service projects that the Banky Wellington organization will be working on for the rest of this year and going forward. Because those things, whether we got into office or not, they're things that God has placed on our heart to do. So we'll be seeking the support of the private sector to do some of those things. And then, what he alluded to in terms of the work that we've done for artists and producers and DJs and music business executives, all who got their start with us. While we're very grateful to have played a part in the foundation of these talents, I think we need to cast a wider net. I think we need to empower a whole generation of people, a whole community of young people, a whole generation of young people, and not just in music and not just in the creative spaces, but across the board. And for me, that's one of the reasons why politics is so important, because you can wield the power of government to provide empowerment for a much larger group of people than you can as a record label doing, one talent here and there. So we'll still be trying to do those kinds of things, but casting a much wider net, where we're providing empowerment for an entire generation of young people, as opposed to working with, individuals, one by one. I believe that one of the greatest things in life is being able to be a stepping stone for other people's success, and being an answer to other people's prayers, and being a solution to other people's problems. So the challenge for us now is, how do we do that on a much larger scale, so that we're one of the groups of people that are lifting an entire generation out of lack and poverty. And that's where my mind is at, and that's where our hearts are. So it's service, it's community service, it's love for God, love for people, love for country, and just whatever is in our hands to do, we'll continue to do those things.
Thank you, Banky. Let's get another person. I see Mr. Prolific. His hands is up at Davis Theon on Twitter Spaces.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Sheun.
Yeah, good evening. Please go ahead.
Okay. It's Mr. Prolific speaking. I'm David Aroke by name, right? Good evening, Mr. Okimbaloye.
Good evening.
Great. Mr. Capable, politics is not always a yes, no. Yeah, politics is not always a yes, no, or a silencer situation. You can sing Made for You, and they will still do you strong thing.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Not even organize for you a Lagos party in Ebute Meta. You see? So the question is,
Banky, you have to sign this. You have to go back to signing an artist in your record label.
The guy is a lyricist.
I'm telling you.
He's a lyricist.
Oh yeah. So the question for me is it about the party or the wave? Because I hear when you talked about how you joined the PDP and how certain things along the processes had already been done, and it kind of became too late. If I understand you correctly, there is became too late to join the Labour Party. So
And when you talk about collaboration, so for me, is it about the party or the wave or the having like minds to work together to get to office? Of course, I know that there are certain things an individual might want to do but may not be able to do until he has the mandate of the people or the authority of office. Yeah, and the second question tied to it is, did you wish you never joined the PDP? And is there a prospect or a possibility of joining the APC in future? By the way, I'm an APC president. I support the APC. For full disclosure, thank you, Mr. Capable.
Thank you, Mr. Prolific. So, Mr. Capable.
Okay, so what I said was that when I was joining the PDP, there were people who were already there who I was looking forward to working with. GRV, for instance, is my friend and brother. It's unfortunate that politics is what it is, and things played out the way that they played out. But I genuinely liked that was the place that I chose to go. Like I said, the ideology of the party, one, it's a truly national party. Two, they truly believe in democracy, and I'm a Democrat, if nothing else. Now, when I get the PDP questions, and I get them a lot, my answer is this: I'm not in the PDP to defend its history and to defend the history of everybody who has ever done anything bad in the history of the PDP. Okay? There's been good things that have happened in PDP. I think most people would agree that the Obasanjo regime was probably the best regime that we've had as a nation thus far. The Obasanjo-Atiku regime. So there've been good things that have come out of the PDP, but there've been questionable things, there've been corrupt things like the APC, like everywhere else. But you cannot find any perfect collection of people. There's no organization of people where everybody is a saint and everybody, you can't name one company or organization or church or mosque or family where there will not be some people inside that don't have some level of brain touch. So I think people need to be realistic about the fact that once you have a collection of people together, you will never find a perfect set of people because we are human beings. We're inherently flawed people. What does count is that in a democracy, the more like-minded good people that we have, the better chances that we have for things to work out for the better. And that's what I'm doing. So, we're building a consensus of people within the PDP who have the same values, who have the same vision, who believe Nigeria can be better. And, we're not there yet. We have a long way to go, but we're not where we started from. And we'll continue to work on that. Now, I would like to see conversations about potential collaborations going forward. And that's not something that I can answer. That's something that I think the leaders at much higher levels than me have to be willing to have those conversations to say, hey, is there a possibility going forward in 2027 and beyond where we start to look at some level of collaboration? Otherwise, you would just be playing into the hands of the powers that be if you are not willing to say, listen, some of us have to sacrifice that selfish ambition and collaborate and put a merger together so that we all know that if we're the opposition, then we're fighting from the same side. Do I regret joining the PDP? No. Again, I think that it's a truly national platform. It's a truly democratic platform. Whether that's good or bad, it depends on the people. A system is just a collection of people that produce a particular result. And I'm just trying to fight to make sure that we have a consensus of people that want the right thing, that will speak for the right thing, that will work towards ensuring that the future is much better than the past. That's what I'm in the PDP for, and that's what I'm in politics for. And as of right now, like I said before, I've made peace with what happened in the elections. I've made peace with whatever will happen in the tribunal, not just at my level, but across the country. And I think that we all need to, let the tribunal and the petition processes play out. Because if we say that we are in this thing for reform and we want to change things and we want the right thing to be done, then this is part of that process, right? It's part of the process to say, hey, this thing has to be checked in court to make sure that if we want excellent, people in office, then the process that produces them must be excellent. So we have to be able to stand for that. We have to be able to fight for that. We have to be able to speak for that. And leadership is very much about standing up for the right thing, even if you have to stand alone. So we will see this process through. But immediately the process is over, then we have to look to say, we go back to building. For those of us that enter office, glory to God, we'll do what we need to do. For those of us that don't make it into office, we must still be part of the conversation. We must still be part of the work. We must still work together. Whichever government is there, whether it's the president or the rep or the Senate, they are the government of the people, not of one political party or the APC. So we must all, when the petitions are done and the tribunal is over, we must all continue to play our part and work together, not only to hold the government accountable, but also to work towards Nigeria being the kind of country that we all want it to be. And what I can tell you is that I will always be one of those people that stands up for service, that sticks his neck out to try and play a role, no matter what role that is, to be the change that I want to see in Nigeria. That's what I can say.
Fantastic. But I mean, he also asked if there is a possibility of you joining the APC. He said he's a member of the APC. Perhaps he wants to see you join the APC. Is that something you're considering?
While I appreciate the offer and the invitation, I'm very much a party man. I'm very much, there are a lot of people who I work with, who I believe in, who've paved the way for me, who have like minds with me where I am. And I'm content with that. So I'm here. So right. PDP, power to the people. And, that's one of my, I should say this, one of my favorite things about PDP in terms of ideologies, the slogan alone says power to the people. And that's something that I've always believed in, that power truly belongs to the people. But for too long, the people have relegated or delegated that power back. And we need to start to take that power back. And that's what we're trying to do. We're just doing it from inside the PDP platform. So I'm here.
Fantastic.
This is where I am.
Let's see if we can get one or two more persons to interact with you, Banky. I see that Yobi is also on. Okay, Kinde is here. Kinde Adefulu.
Good evening, Mr. Sean Kibaloye. Thank you for me, Mr. Banky Wellington. It's so pathetic I couldn't see in the House of Representatives, even though I'm a diehard PDP member. I'm a political presenter on Last Radio, though I'm a student of post-science. But the pity I could not see Mr. Senator Sani because they posted one of my lecturers, Mr. Sylvester Odiona Kind, though he deleted the picture. I wanted to ask him some questions when I was fighting for freedom. So, Mr. Banky, there is a challenge about the PDP. I've been supporting PDP for over 10 or 12 years ago, even when I was my NC, even till now. There was a platform that we should register for PDP membership. Kunle Ologbodiyan, the publicity secretary, asked us, there was a link then, around 20 when Buhari was vying for the president with Abubakar Atiku. But I registered. I couldn't see my name, and there was nothing of sort again, because it was invited to, I'm from Ogun State, I reside in Abeokuta. There is a radio station called Splash FM. So Mr. Ologbodiyan was called via the telephone phone line, and he told us, he gave us the link to register to be a PDP member, a legal PDP member. But till now, we could not register. But I could see APC bringing their distance to even the minimus bureau, like the Ilugu around the Wole area. That's why I start Kenta. They brought the registration this thing there to the center. They did capturing for free. And I was like, if APC can do this, it means they're looking for members. So why can't the PDP take it more to the grassroots? How do we get our PDP membership card so that we can attend ward meeting, local government meeting, and all sorts? I'm a post-science student in Lagos State University, funded level here, but I'm much more involved in politics. I'll not be able to say that any.
Okay, Kenny, right, very good. Because we need to wrap up quickly. Banky, would you like to respond to that? That perhaps will.
I think he's right. I can just say that I think he's correct in the sense there's a lot of work that needs to be done just from modernizing the processes that are ongoing in terms of membership registration, in terms of access, in terms of information, in terms of just digitizing the party's platforms. And I think that will be one of the things that we would look to see going forward once the dust settles from these elections and the tribunal process. I think the party needs to immediately swing into action to do some of the things that he's suggesting. This is 2023. People should be able to register online, access membership information, access the party's constitution, find about their ward meetings. All of those processes should be able to happen online in 2023. But I think it will also depend on the leadership at the national level, and then the leadership that cascades down. We will soon start discussing party congresses. I think it's very critical that we pay attention to our party congresses, who are the ward exco members that get into power, at the ward level in the constituencies. Who's the ward chairman? Who are the secretaries, the women leaders, the youth leaders? Who are all of those people? Because I think they will all have a role to play in just making things more modern and more effective and more impactful. So I can just say that I agree with him completely, and hopefully we'll see some of those changes being implemented in the very near future.
Thank you so much, Banky. It's sad that you have to go because I know you have a lot of commitment. You just shoved a lot of them just to be part of these podcasts, but I most sincerely thank you. But if there is any final word that you have tonight, what would that be?
If there's any final word that I have, I would say that I think this thing is a marathon, it's not a sprint. I think we have to be in this for the long haul. We have to be committed to rebuilding the kind of nation that we want to see. And each one of us has a part to play. I would like to encourage everybody that is watching or listening to get involved at whatever level that you're at. Get involved in a political party, get involved in your ward, in your constituency, play a role. And then I would hearken back to what I said earlier. I think there needs to be a collaboration between the public and private sectors. And those of us who are not running for office have to find people that are and partner with them to put Nigeria on the path towards growth and development. That's the only way that I see that we can get out of the situation that we're in as a nation. If we all realize that we have a part to play and commit to doing that. Nobody can fix everything. There is no messiah in politics. If one person tells you they can come in and change everything from top to bottom, they're either lying or they're delusional. The truth is, there's so many problems and nobody can fix everything, but everybody can do something. So just do the something that you have access to and influence over. And if we all do that, then Nigeria stands a chance. Thank you very much for having me, my brother. I really appreciate it. God bless.
Yeah, it's an honor to host you tonight. Very much interesting, the conversation that we have. Very much inspiring also, and very thought-provoking. With those parting shot of Banky W, we will bring the podcast to an end. Thanks to Senator Shehu Sani. But it's obvious that this thought-provoking conversation must continue beyond this platform to spur the right and anticipated action. How many of those in power are driven by the conviction to serve? Truth be told, those with problem-solving ideas may continue to struggle to navigate their way through the murky waters of politics. But as we all have gathered in the course of these podcasts, it is a lot of hard work. Also, there is no Messiah in politics. We have learned so much so tonight, and the call for involvement and the call to serve is now open. In the final analysis, politics is tough, and so are other human endeavors. So staying on the sideline doesn't help. Get involved, join a political party, vote, and seek to be voted for. Thank you all for being part of this podcast today. It's always a delight sharing this space with all of you. Thank you so much indeed for spending your time. See you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Seun Okinbaloy. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind.